Namaste. Today we're joined with Bhai Gurkeerat Singh. Some of you may know him from his Instagram at KothaGuru. He's been in Punjab for a big part of 2022. He was with the Vihir and Bhai Amritpal Singh's initiatives that he had launched in Punjab. So we're really glad to have him here in the CSY studio, and we've done a couple of these in the past, so it's good to have Bhai Gurkeerat Singh share his wisdom, his experience, and what he has been doing in the Punjab. So we'd like to welcome Bhai Gurkeerat Singh. Thank you for being here. And the first question I want to ask, because you were intimately involved with the Vihir, the de-addiction centers, is there something that stood out to you in particular? Because when I look at your pictures and your photography and I think all of the media that came out of there, there's definitely something special that was going on in the Vihir and the people that Bhai Amritpal Singh was affecting, that spirit that ran through sort of the Sangat. Maybe talk about maybe something in particular that you experienced with Bhai Amritpal Singh, or maybe through the Vihir or through the de-addiction centers.
So first of all, thank you, Karam Singh, for having me here. I appreciate you giving me this opportunity to speak. What I witnessed in Punjab and what I saw on the ground there, I feel like it was very special and historic. I originally went to Punjab only for a 3-week family trip. And when I saw the Sangat and the people of Punjab really grasping and having some hope in Bhai Amritpal Singh that he's going to do something for the people of Punjab, and seeing how Bhai Amritpal Singh was speaking on the topics of Amrit Sanchar, speaking on the topics of drugs and de-addiction and the migration issue that's happening in Punjab right now. All those things I thought were like serious issues that no one else in the West or in Punjab was trying to tackle on a serious base. They're mentioned by politicians here and there, but especially inspiring the youth to take Amrit again, and those youth that have been sidelined for so many years. They finally felt like they had a role model or someone that they can look up to, who they saw themselves in, right? So if you look at Bhai Amritpal Singh's life or his short journey, he only started keeping his gaze about 16 months ago. And it's not even been 6 months since he took Amrit on September 25th of 2022. So in that short period of time that Bhai Amritpal Singh started committing himself to Gursikhi and Gurmat, he was able to inspire so many people from so many different backgrounds, starting from young kids who were just 7-8 years old, to people who I saw who were there in their 80s and 90s who were coming there and saying, hey, someone's actually speaking about the Sikh issues again after a long hiatus that will happen in Punjab. So if something that stands out to me specifically what Amritpal Singh was doing, I would say that how he was bringing all the people who felt like there's no more hope left in Punjab, or they had lost hope in the establishment, they had lost hope in the new Aam Aadmi party that had just come in, Bhagwant Mann and his Jhadu Wali party. All those people who had been sidelined and felt like they lost hope, Amritpal Singh was becoming a hope for them. Even though he didn't have so many resources, he didn't have the political pull, he didn't have the wealth or the institutions in place to help every single person, but the way that the Sangat was flocking towards Bhai Amritpal Singh, it was really inspiring to see a young man who's only 29 at that time come into Punjab and be like, hey, let's do something back for the land of Punjab. During that time period, I'll give you a couple of examples. On October 29th, there was an Amrit Sanchar that took place at Sri Akal Takht Sahib. And I was able to be there for the Amrit Sanchar. And I think almost around 1,954 people took Amrit that day, roughly, from what I remember. So nearly 2,000 people took Amrit. And at that day, I was in the Prakarma, Bhai Amritpal Singh was there. And the entire Prakarma, the whole Veda in front of Akal Takht Sahib was completely full. The entire Prakarma was just packed with Sangat. And ਉੱਥੇ ਭਾਈ ਅੰਮ੍ਰਿਤਪਾਲ ਸਿੰਘ ਨੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਨਾਲ ਦੇ ਸਾਰੇ ਸਿੰਘ ਸੀਗੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਹੁਕਮ ਕੀਤਾ ਸੀਗਾ ਕਿ ਅੱਜ ਕੋਈ ਸਿੰਘ ਅੰਮ੍ਰਿਤ ਛਕਣ ਤੋਂ ਵਾਂਝਾ ਨਾ ਰਹਿ ਜਾਵੇ ਅੱਜ ਸਾਰੇ ਸਿੰਘਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸੰਗਤ ਨੂੰ ਆਪਾਂ ਅੰਮ੍ਰਿਤ ਛਕਾਉਣਾ ਇਹ ਬਹੁਤ it's really that's what his main purpose was, right? He came from Dubai, he wasn't Amritari. The first thing he does is says I'm going to take Amrit, and those who want to take Amrit with me come to September 25th to Sri Anandpur Sahib, and they have a massive Amrit Sanchar there. His message, we have to understand, there's Amrit Sanchars happening in Punjab for a long period of time. But when someone who comes back and says, hey, we're going to take Amrit and we're going to give our head to the Guru. So that was his first, this is what he saw that was a solution for the majority of the issues in Punjab. When you put your commitment in Guru Granth Sahib Ji and Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj and the Khalsa Panth, you're committed to the Khalsa Panth, that you've given your head to the Guru, then issues such as migration, issues such as drugs, or any other gang violence, communal violence, alcoholic issues, domestic violence issues, all these issues that people speak about, they become much easier to fix and resolve because your commitment is to Guru Granth Sahib Ji, Guru Gobind Singh Ji's message. And when your message is of the Gurus and what the Guru teaches, and you've given your head to the Guru symbolically, then you're willing to physically give your head for the Guru and the Qawm as well. So Amritpal Singh laid out this message very clearly right when he arrived. And they asked him a question. They asked Bhai Amritpal Singh a question that when he arrived, that what's the difference between you and everyone else who's shikaying Amrit? He said, once I take Amrit, I have to ask myself a question. Okay, what type of Sikh do I want to be?
Yep.
And his answer was, I want to be a Sikh like Sant Baba Jarnail Singh Ji Khalsa Pindra Wale. And when Sant Baba Jarnail Singh Mahapurakh were doing prachar in India, their message was ke Guru nu sir dena. When someone comes back with that message, after the Kharku movement, after that period that stopped in 1995, after that period when someone comes and revives that message again, that's a direct challenge to the Sarkar and a direct challenge to the state. So Amritpal Singh started spreading this message, and people, the youth, especially the young people who had been sidelined, like I said earlier, from the establishment, they saw someone that they could look at and say, hey, we want to do something for the Panth. And this awakening started with the Kisan Morcha, this awakening started with Deep Sidhu, and it was so prevalent to see that day on October 29th at Sri Akal Takht Sahib, when I saw young kids who were like 7, 8 years old fighting with their grandmothers and saying, Aaj assi amar chakna, nahi ta zindagi ch kite nahi amar chakna, inna cha si unna nu. I saw people who are coming from UP, Hindus coming from UP, and with 10-footing in their hands and saying, Aaj assi amar chakna ya Sri Akal Takht Sahib te. I saw an individual who was standing there and he was shivering. And I walked up to him because I was trying to get photos of people who were taking Amrit that day. And I walked up to him and I asked him a question. Okay, Bhai Sahib, is everything okay? How come you're shivering? He's like, I've been drinking alcohol for 25 years. Well, Amrit solved that issue for me. And he had the cha ke main Amrit cha ke meri sharab chut juki, right? So Bhai Sahib was giving this new beacon of hope, this beacon of light for these people. And I remember that day, these Matawa were standing in the Parakrama of Harmandir Sahib and just trying to get a glimpse of Bhai Amritpal Singh and saying कि साडे बच्चियां नूं तुसीं नशे तो बचा लो, नशियां तो बचा लो, साडी जवानी, साडा घर बस गर्क हो गया. In India, in पिंडां विच इक चक्कियां हुंदियां. Chakkias where they mill flour, or they get grain and they mill it, and then they have flour that's produced out of it, right? And ek maa menu kendi putt inna zyada nasha sada vad gaya Punjab vich ke chakkiyan te aata nahi milda, chakkiyan te sanu nasha mil reha. It was that bad. It got to that point, right? So on that day when Amritpal Singh ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਉੱਥੇ ਖੜ੍ਹ ਕੇ ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਸੰਗਤ ਨੂੰ ਕੀਤਾ ਸੰਬੋਧਨ, you could see just the amount of hope and excitement and chardi kala that was seen in the Sangat. And that continued over to the Vihir. The Vihir wasn't something that was planned, long planning that took place. It was very spontaneous that Paisa said apna koi prachar karna to Vihir torni hai, and the plans just got made day by day as ideas got formed together, right? And very quickly it was put together. When we went to Sultanpur Lodi, ਉੱਥੇ ਇੱਕ ਸਿੰਗਲਾ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਇੱਕ ਹਿੰਦੂ ਲੀਡਰ ਆ, ਉਹ ਆਏ ਉੱਥੇ, ਸ਼ਾਇਦ ਉਹ ਜਲੰਧਰ ਤੋਂ ਆ. And they came to Bhai Sahib and said, Bhai Sahib, we want to do a beinti, we want to do a request that when the Vihir comes to Fagwara, we want to lay down flowers on the ground for 1 mile and welcome Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj, welcome the Sangat, and welcome Bhai Sahib and all the Singhs into Fagwara. The day we got to Fagwara, it's a day I will never forget in my life, because I think there's probably around 40,000 people, 50,000 people there, maybe even more, just packed all Fagwara da Chonka, where it started, ਉੱਥੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ end ਤੱਕ ਸਾਰਾ ਫਗਵਾੜਾ ਸ਼ਹਿਰ was just on the bypasses, over top of the bridges, on the ground. Sangat was lined everywhere. And not only for 1 mile, 3-4 miles they laid flowers on the ground. And not only did they lay, there was Hindu Paichara, they laid flowers, and then on the side, jinne vi sangat si sare uppar di Maharaj de fullan di barka kar rahe si. I remember this one individual, I'll share a clip of it on YouTube, I made a video of it. He had a huge body of flowers on his head, and he was just Jamaica banda nachda nahi hunda, right? Just flower and khilari janda si nach ke ਉਹਨੂੰ ਇੰਨਾ ਚਾਅ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਗੁਰੂ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਜੀ ਆ ਗਏ, ਭਾਈ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਆ ਗਏ, ਸੰਗਤ ਆ ਗਈ, ਇੰਨਾ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਚਾਅ ਸੀ ਸੰਗਤ ਵਿੱਚ. And that vibe, those emotions, and how Sangat, even Musliman came out that day, Punjabi Musliman, and they would say to us, the Musliman Paichara would say, ke sade jede bachche naujawan, they're getting inspiration from Amritpal Singh, and they're becoming better Muslims listening to his speeches, because he's not only saying, hey, ke he's Punjab di gal kar raha, ਕਿ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਆ, ਇਹਦੇ 'ਚ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਹਿੰਦੂ ਵੀ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਕੁਛ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਦਾ ਨੁਕਸਾਨ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ, ਉਹ 'ਚ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਹਿੰਦੂਆਂ ਦਾ ਵੀ ਨੁਕਸਾਨ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ, ਮੁਸਲਮਾਨ ਹਿੰਦੂਆਂ ਦਾ ਵੀ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ, ਅਤੇ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਦਾ ਤਾਂ ਹੋਣਾ ਹੀ ਆ. Right? So that environment, the overall vibe, and the hospitality that was in the Sangat, any single village we would go to with the Vihir, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਉਹ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਪਿੰਡਾਂ ਦੇ ਲੋਕ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਸੀਗੇ, ਉਹ ਖਿੱਚ ਕੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਆਪਣੇ ਘਰ 'ਚ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਸੀਗੇ to accommodate us, ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਘਰੇ ਰਾਤ ਰਹੋ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਘਰੇ ਰਾਤ ਰਹੋ. I remember we were walking down this one alley, I forget what village it was in, but our house was like the 5th or 6th house where we were going to spend the night. And I had all my camera gear, so they used to give me a house. And Harmil Singh Jodha, he was a part of the advanced team, and Bhai Gurkeerat Singh Bukkanwala, both of them are in prison right now, and they were part of the advanced team, and they'd always go reserve like a couple of houses or rooms where Singhs could stay and just freshen up and shower in the morning, right? And Bhai Amritpal Singh always stayed in his vanity, his container that he had. He never went in a house. His thing was like, I want to stay with the Sangat. I have all my expensive camera gear. I need to recharge my batteries, work on some vlog, do some posts and stuff like that. So I needed some place where it was secure and safe, and I needed a spot where I could recharge everything. So we would go to these houses, and when Sangat would find out that Vihir Ale Singh ਸਾਡੇ ਗਲੀ 'ਚ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਆਸਨ ਆ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਘਰ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਸੀ ਉਹ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਆ ਕੇ ਬਾਹਰ ਖੜ੍ਹ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਸੀਗੇ ਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਘਰੇ ਨਾ ਆਸਨ ਲਾਇਓ, ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਆਸਨ ਲਾਇਓ, ਅਤੇ ਇੱਕ ਸਿੰਘ ਨੂੰ ਐਂ ਵੰਡ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਸੀਗੇ. ਇੰਨਾ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਚਾਅ ਸੀਗਾ ਸੰਗਤ ਵਿੱਚ. So that was like an amazing experience to witness on its own. And I think the overall experience, how in 37 days the Vihir started on November 23rd, Sri Akal Takht Sahib ਅਰਦਾਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਹੋਈ. ਪਹਿਲੇ ਦਿਨ ਅਸੀਂ ਜੰਡਿਆਲੇ ਗੁਰੂ ਗਏ. From Amritsar to Jandiala Guru, I think it's roughly like 10-15 kilometer, that's probably like 10 miles, right? 10 mil di vata. It took us 6-7 hours to travel that 10 kilometers, 10 miles. And it was just, inni jade sangat sigi. It was just, so we started on November 23rd. We got to Sri Kesgarh Sahib on December 20th. And 20th we diwan sajaya. 20 ਨੂੰ ਦੀਵਾਨ ਸੱਜ ਕੇ ਅਤੇ 21 ਨੂੰ ਅੰਮ੍ਰਿਤ ਸੰਚਾਰ ਸੀਗਾ. ਅਤੇ ਉਹ ਭਾਈ ਸਾਹਿਬ had this Bhai Amritpal Singh, he came up with this term ਕਿ ਅਨੰਦਪੁਰ ਵਾਪਸੀ, right? It's a term that we hear often, but the de-addiction center that Bhai Amritpal Singh started, he called it Anandpur Wapsi Kender, right? And because his motive was ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇੱਥੇ ਨੌਜਵਾਨ ਆਵੇ ਉਹ ਆਪਣੇ ਘਰ ਵਾਪਸ ਅਨੰਦਪੁਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਪੜ੍ਹਤੇ, go back to Sri Anandpur Sahib, take Amrit, become the Guru wala ban ke bani na jude. And so that day on December 20th, when we got to Anandpur Sahib, there was a huge reception of all the Sangat there. And on the 21st, ਜਿੰਨੇ ਵੀ ਨਾਲ ਦੇ ਸਿੰਘ ਸੀਗੇ ਉੱਥੇ, ਭਾਈ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਅੰਮ੍ਰਿਤ ਛਕੋ. ਚਾਅ ਨਾਲ ਸਾਰੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਿੰਘ ਸੀਗੇ, ਭਾਈ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਦੀ ਸਿਕਿਉਰਿਟੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਸਿੰਘ ਸੀਗੇ, ਕਈ ਸਿੰਘ ਭਾਈ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਦੇ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਉੱਦਾਂ ਕੋਈ ਫੋਟੋਗ੍ਰਾਫੀ ਕਰਦਾ ਸੀਗਾ, ਕੋਈ ਉੱਥੇ ਉਹੀ ਨਾਲ ਟਰਾਲੇ ਚਲਾਉਂਦਾ ਸੀਗਾ, ਜੋ ਵੀ ਕੁਛ ਕਰਦਾ ਸੀਗਾ. ਅਤੇ ਲਗਭਗ ਸਾਰੇ ਸਿੰਘਾਂ ਨੇ ਆ ਕੇ ਉਸ ਦਿਨ ਅੰਮ੍ਰਿਤ ਛਕਿਆ ਅਤੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਘਰ ਵਾਪਸ ਅਨੰਦਪੁਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਆਏ. That was like a symbolic thing. I know that Amritpal Singh was thinking of starting the Vihir was supposed to start from Mukhtar Sahib to Damdama Sahib for Vaisakhi on November 19th. and finish on on March 18th. It was supposed to start. March 19th was supposed to start, and then it's supposed to finish on April 14th at Sri Damdama Sahib. Prior to that, I remember Bhai Amritpal Singh and all the Singhs got together and we had a meeting and saying, hey, how should we start the next Vihir? Originally, the plan was कि ਆਪਾਂ Vihir Damdama Sahib ਤੋਂ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕਰਕੇ ਤੇ ਵਾਪਸ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਜਾਣੀ ਹੈ ਅਨੰਦਪੁਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ। ਸੋ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਵੀ ਸੰਗਤ ਉਹ ਰਸਤੇ 'ਚ ਆਉਣਗੇ, ਉੱਥੇ ਰਸਤੇ 'ਚ ਪਟਿਆਲੇ ਆ ਗਿਆ, ਹੋਰ ਸਾਰੇ ਜਿੰਨੇ ਵੀ ਸ਼ਹਿਰ ਆ ਗਏ ਰਸਤੇ 'ਚ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਮਾਲ ਵਿੱਚ ਟਾਈਮ ਬਿਤਾਉਂਗੇ, ਫਿਰ ਉੱਧਰ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਇਹੀ ਮੈਸੇਜ ਮਿਲੇ ਕਿ Vihir ਵਾਪਸ ਅਨੰਦਪੁਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜਾ ਰਹੀ ਆ। So that was the overall the change that you were seeing in people's lives. People like majority of the Singhs who are now arrested with Bhai Amritpal Singh or in his security, majority of them I saw do their juda for the first time because they just came, they parna ban ke te naal ral ge inne ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਕੇਸ ਸੀਗੇ ਸਿਰਾਂ ਤੇ, and they started just tying at the star slowly they want to start wearing a bana ਪਾਉਣ ਲੱਗ ਗਏ, security ਕਰਨ ਲੱਗ ਗਏ ਤੇ ਹੌਲੀ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਭਾਈ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀਗਾ ਕਿ ਮੇਕ ਸ਼ੋਰ ਤੂੰ ਅਮਰ ਛਕਿਆ, ਤੂੰ ਇਹ ਕੀਤਾ, ਕੁਛ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਿਹਾ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਬਸ ਭਾਈ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਦੀਆਂ ਸਪੀਚਾਂ ਸੁਣ ਕੇ, ਭਾਈ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨੇ ਸਪੀਚਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਸਾਰੀ ਸੰਗਤ ਨੂੰ ਸੰਬੋਧਨ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ ਕਿ ਗੁਰੂ ਵਾਲੇ ਬਣੋ। 37 ਦਿਨਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ 4000 ਪ੍ਰਾਣੀ ਨੇ ਅਮਰ ਛਕਿਆ। ਸੋ ਦ Vihir finished it finished at Anandpur Sahib on December 21st. After December 21st, ਉਹ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਫਿਰ ਚਾਲੇ ਪਾਤੇ ਸੀਗੇ ਫਤਿਹਗੜ੍ਹ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਵੱਲ ਨੂੰ। ਸੋ ਉੱਥੇ ਰੋਪੜ, ਚਮਕੌਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ, ਜਿੰਨੇ ਵੀ ਉੱਥੇ ਹੋਰ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰਾ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਹੁੰਦੇ, ਮਰਿੰਡਾ, ਸਾਰੇ ਉਹ ਗੁਰੂ ਘਰ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਉਹ ਰਸਤਾ ਸੀਗਾ ਛੋਟੇ ਸਾਹਿਬਜ਼ਾਦਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਸਾਕੇ ਦਾ ਹੈ ਨਾ, ਅਤੇ ਵੱਡੇ ਸਾਹਿਬਜ਼ਾਦਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਸਾਕੇ ਦਾ, ਉਹ ਸਾਰਾ ਉਹ ਰਸਤਾ ਫਰਮ ਅਨੰਦਪੁਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ we traveled to ਫਤਿਹਗੜ੍ਹ ਸਾਹਿਬ 3 ਦਿਨ ਰੁਕੇ Vihir, and then finally we made a decision because the weather was really bad, ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ fog and ਧੁੰਦ ਸੀਗੀ. A couple of cars got into an accident there just because of the weather. Singhs were getting ill. Bhai Sahib's health wasn't doing too well. So we decided to postpone the Vihir for 2 weeks and then start it up again at Maghi da Mela. And the Vihir did go back to Maghi da Mela at Moksar Sahib on January 13th, 14th and 15th, 16th. So 4 din fir utthe Vihir ruki sigi. But in that time period, just excitement was, I don't think I'll ever witness like something like that again.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because I think when we think about this century, or these past 2 decades at least, for the Sikh experience, you think about the Sikh refugee, you think about how migration is happening. And even when we think about the phenomenon of displacement, when we think about the symptoms of migration and the de-addiction campaigns that Bhai Amritpal Singh has started, I think all of these, play into this very specific, I think, idea Bhai Amritpal Singh had about, Anandpur Vapsi Karniya, and this will be our sort of avenue to bring change in Punjab. And I wanted you to talk about the de-addiction centers because I know that was a big part of the narrative in Punjab. I think a lot of people knew about the issue of nasha and even abroad. It's a very big issue, and the de-addiction center served as a new type of treatment for people in Punjab, right? And I think there's traditional models of how to return people and de-addict people. But, this is a new model that Bhai Amritpal Singh started. So if you wanted to kind of talk about that a little bit, the de-addiction centers, and maybe something you've experienced there that you felt that was pretty incredible, and all the people that, had changed through those initiatives.
When Bhai Amritpal Singh had his Dastar Bandi at Rode Pind on September 29th, Bhai Sahib stands up during his speech and says that nasha Punjab with bahut zyada wad gaya. And paraphrasing what he said, but he pretty much said that koi gal nahi, ਆਪਾਂ ਕੋਈ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੀ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਬਣਾਉਂਗੇ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਨੌਜਵਾਨ ਨਸ਼ਿਆਂ 'ਤੇ ਲੱਗੇ ਆ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਗੁਰਬਾਣੀ ਨਾਲ ਜੋੜਿਆ ਜਾਵੇਗਾ, ਸੇਵਾ ਨਾਲ ਜੋੜਿਆ ਜਾਵੇਗਾ, ਸ਼ਾਸਤਰ ਵਿੱਦਿਆ ਸਿਖਾਈ ਜਾਵੇਗੀ, ਸੰਗਤ ਉਹ ਜਿਹੀ ਮਿਲੂਗੀ ਜਿਸ ਨਾਲ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਨਸ਼ਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਦੂਰ ਹੋ ਜਾਊਗਾ। ਕੋਈ ਗੱਲ ਨਹੀਂ, ਆਪਾਂ ਕੋਈ ਮਾੜੀ ਚੰਗੀ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਬਣਾ ਲਵਾਂਗੇ ਅਤੇ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਕਿਰਪਾ ਕਰਨ। That's what his message was that day.
How it started. Yeah.
That's how it started, right? And when I heard it, I was here back in Canada at that time. I heard it, and that was something that stuck in my head. I'm like, that's huge. That someone's actually putting, they're not just saying it, they're actually going to walk. Let's see what Amritpal Singh does. So when this message started getting out that Amritpal Singh ne koi de-addiction center kholna, people got really excited. Mothers started coming to Bhai Amritpal Singh with their sons and saying कि साडे बच्चे नशें ते लगे हुए हैं ते इहदी मदद करो. And anywhere Bhai Amritpal Singh would go, there'd be like 4, 5, 10, 15 people there who'd be like, we need help, we're addicted to drugs. Saadi madad karo. Sada sab kuch gwaach gaya. We have nothing left. We've lost everything. And what Bhai Amritpal Singh did, he didn't even have a place at that time. What he did is he just brought these people into his own house. Apne ghar vich, apne niji ghar vich, when I went there, there's 4 rooms in Bhai Amritpal Singh's house. And I saw this gadde, all these mattresses on the ground, just laid down everywhere. And I asked the Singhs, I'm like, gadde kide vaste ya? They're like, jide nashe chhad rahe a veero, itthe bas in the living room, in the rooms, any extra space that they had, utti pai jande sige. So Amritpal Singh, from day one, he just brought all these ਜਿਹੜੇ ਬੰਦੇ ਨਸ਼ਿਆਂ 'ਤੇ ਲੱਗੇ ਸੀਗੇ ਇਹ ਅਮਲੀ ਲੋਕ ਆਪਣੇ ਘਰੇ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸੰਭਣ ਲੱਗ ਗਿਆ. ਆਪ ਪ੍ਰਸ਼ਾਦਾ ਪਾਣੀ ਦੇਣਾ, ਉਹਦੇ ਮਾਤਾ ਨੇ ਬਣਾ ਕੇ ਦੇਣਾ, ਪਰਿਵਾਰ ਨੇ ਬਣਾ ਕੇ ਦੇਣਾ, ਸਿੰਘਾਂ ਨੇ ਸੇਵਾ ਕਰਨੀ. And when the people of the pind saw, hey, these numbers are growing, they started giving him, there was a Gurdwara Sahib of a Kala Mahal that was outside the village kind of. ਉੱਥੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਦੇ ਦਿੱਤੀ, ਉੱਥੇ ਖੁੱਲੀ ਡੁੱਲੀ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਸੀ. And there the numbers started growing massively. I saw numbers like from when I first got there, I think it was about 40 or 50 people there. And within those 2 months, 3 months that I was there, the numbers got up to almost 300 people, 250, 300 people. And Amritpal Singh was housing these people. He was giving them shelter. He was giving them food. He was giving them kapade. He was giving them sabun pani. He was giving them medication for their treatment. If they needed to go to the hospital, if they needed a medical checkup, he was providing that. And he had Bhai Basant Singh there, Daulatpura, who was a close associate of Bhai Deep Sidhu. Oh, he was watching over the whole de-addiction center. I saw people young as 13 years old, 14 years old, come to Bhai Amritpal Singh and say, this one child, he came, he's like, Bhai Sahib, I was 10 years old when I started doing heroin. Main chitta jan shuru kita, main 10 saal landa siga. Hon meri umar 13 saal di hogi. I have no life. I have no idea what I'm going to do with my life. Please help me. There's kids coming young as 13, 14, 15. That age group, I saw, I think about 10, 15 people in that age group that came there who needed to get off drugs. And the families had no idea like how to help them. And there's a lot of these people are from poor families, so they can't even afford to go to the de-addiction centers that the government has opened because those have become businesses. And Paisa was running this de-addiction center, which he didn't like calling a de-addiction center. He wanted to call it Anandpur Vapsi Kendra. And he's like, he was running them all with the support of the Sangat. Jodi Sangat hundi si, telephone peta dindi si, donations. And on the sara kharch uddar janda si. And Paisa would always say कि सब तो वधिया खाना, चंगा पानी, इन्हां नूं घ्यो, मक्खन, दाल, रोटी, सब्जियां, मिस्सी, प्रसादे सब कुछ बना के देने आ ते इन्हां नूं वध तों वध बाणी पढ़ाउणी है ते सेवा कराउणी है इत्थे. I remember one story that I can share with you is there's one Singh who came there and he had 14 acres of land. And he told me that he started doing drugs in 2017 and he was only about 16 years old then. And he was 21 now. He came there and he told me that out of my 14 acres of land, I sold 3 acres of land, 90 lakh rupiya of land that I sold just doing drugs. And I'm the only son and my father passed away in my own depression, saying ke kalla pota sada. And he just passed away and just through depression, right? And he came there, and the first day he came there, he was in such a horrible state. And Paisab saw him, and Paisab said, this guy needs serious professional help. And they took him to the hospital. They kept him there for a couple of days. And when he started getting normal and stuff, I started talking to him and saying, what's up? How are you doing? He's only 21 years old. He said, brother, he's like, the first day I got here, I ripped out an AC from my house and I went and sold it. And the last dose of heroin that I ingested into myself was just outside of this Gurdwara Sahib. And he's like, my life has just been completely destroyed. And he started living with Bhai Amritpal Singh. He stayed there for 3 months doing seva immense amount of seva. Day and night, he would warm up water for every single person who was living in the de-addiction center. 250 things every single day at 2 a.m. he would wake up and just do seva of them by providing them with hot water, pani garam karke dena. And eventually, Bhai Sahib saw that he was so committed, and Bhai Sahib brought him into his own security. And he is actually one of the people who was arrested and brought to Baba Bakala prison the first day on March 18th that all of this took place. But he was so committed. He had in his mind, he decided कि मैं अपने परिवार नू घरे जाके मिल आवां, है ना? And when he spoke to his mom on the phone, his mom was like, "No, you can't come home." And he's like, "Why can't I come home?" She's like, if you come home, that's like writing a badawa to Bhai Amritpal Singh कि तुहानू छड्ड के आए घरे नहीं आना हुण भाई साहब कोले चले गया हुण घरे नहीं आना ਅਸੀਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਆ ਕੇ ਮਿਲਾਂਗੇ ਅਨੰਦਪੁਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ. And then his mother came and met him at Anandpur Sahib, and she was so happy. In the Vihir, it was just ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਦਾ ਜਾਪ ਚੱਲਦਾ ਸੀਗਾ, ਸੰਗਤ ਬਾਣੀ ਪੜ੍ਹ ਰਹੀ ਸੀਗੀ, ਕੀਰਤਨ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ ਸੀਗਾ, ਉੱਥੇ ਨਾਰੇ ਲੱਗ ਰਹੇ ਸੀਗੇ, ਸਿਰ ਜਾਵੇ ਤਾਂ ਜਾਵੇ, ਮੇਰਾ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਸਿੱਧਕ ਨਾ ਜਾਵੇ. That environment was changing the psychology of all these people. I'll share another story that really, really shocked me. After the Vihir, I think this was probably around January 4th or 5th, maybe 6th. Around that time, we were going to go to Jalandhar with Bhai Amritpal Singh. ਉਹ ਰਾਸਤੇ 'ਚ ਇੱਕ ਪਿੰਡ ਹੁੰਦਾ, ਵੱਡਾ ਪਿੰਡ. And we has got some, like, Singhs would come from different villages and tell Bhai Sahib ਕਿ ਸਾਡੇ ਪਿੰਡ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੱਦਾਂ ਨਸ਼ੇ ਵਿਕ ਰਹੇ ਆ, ਜਾਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਪਿੰਡ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹ ਵਿਕ ਰਹੇ ਆ. Someone came to Bhai Sahib and said, this one Singh came to Bhai Sahib and said ਕਿ Bhai Sahib, ਸਾਡੇ ਪਿੰਡ ਵਿੱਚ ਗੁਰੂ ਘਰ ਦੇ ਗ੍ਰੰਥੀ ਦੀ ਘਰ ਵਾਲੀ ਨਸ਼ੇ ਵੇਚ ਰਹੀ ਆ. In the Guru Ghar, from the Guru Ghar premises. Obviously, that's really shocking and surprising. How is this possible, right? So Bhai Sahib ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਕੋਈ ਗੱਲ ਨਹੀਂ, ਅਸੀਂ ਕੱਲ੍ਹ ਨੂੰ ਪਰਸੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਉੱਧਰ ਜਾਣਾ ਅਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਉਂਗੇ ਪਿੰਡ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ. And we all got there, we all got out of our cars, and Bhai Sahib started walking, and we go to the first Gurdwara Sahib. And those people got news that Bhai Amritpal Singh was coming. So they all ran away or hid or whatever and said, kare. And then those people at the pind told us that when the police comes, they try to come and see ki ho reha. These people hide nashe diyan pudinga and Maharaji's rumalle and Maharaji's angs. ਇੰਨਾ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਉੱਥੇ ਨਸ਼ੇ ਦੀ ਤਸਕਰੀ ਆ, the sale of drugs, people they ਨਹੀਂ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਉੱਥੇ ਕੋਈ ਜ਼ਮੀਰ ਮਰ ਗਈ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੀ, ਇੰਨਾ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਨਸ਼ਾ ਵੱਧ ਗਿਆ. ਗੁਰੂ ਘਰ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਗੁਰੂ ਘਰ ਦੇ ਗ੍ਰੰਥੀ ਦਾ ਪਰਿਵਾਰ ਨਸ਼ੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਫਿਰ ਜਦੋਂ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਆਉਂਦੀ ਹੈ ਅਤੇ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਦੇ ਰੁਮਾਲਿਆਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਪੌੜੀਆਂ ਵਾਰ ਦੇਣ ਆਪਣੀ ਗਲਤੀ ਲੁਕਾਉਣ ਵਾਸਤੇ, right? Like, that's how low the morality of some of these people have gone. And then Bhai Amritpal Singh went into the village and he just took the mic and he spoke in front of the whole village saying, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਗੱਲ ਦਾ ਪਤਾ ਲੱਗਿਆ, and if you guys don't stop this, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇੱਕ ਵੀ ਗੱਲ ਦਾ ਪਤਾ ਲੱਗਿਆ ਕਿ ਪਿੰਡ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੋਈ ਨਸ਼ੇ ਵੇਚ ਰਿਹਾ ਅਤੇ ਜਾਂ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਇੱਥੇ ਲਿਆ ਕੇ ਆ ਰਹੇ ਆ ਨਸ਼ੇ ਉਹ ਆਪਣਾ ਸੋਚ ਲੈਣ. We went to Govindwal Sahib. Govindwal Sahib, right behind Bolli Sahib, there's a huge colony of probably 300-400 houses. And it's right on a slope right by ਜਿੱਥੇ ਬਿਆਸ ਦੀ ਨਦੀ ਚੱਲ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ, ਬਿਆਸ river, where it flows. And we got told ਕਿ ਉੱਥੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਨਸ਼ਾ. And we went there, and Bhai Sahib made it, like, purposely he took the entire Vihir through that. It was really tight alleys that Bhai Sahib went through. ਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਉੱਥੇ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਕਰਨ ਲੱਗ ਗਿਆ. And they told me, the people of the pind started telling me, that little colony started telling me, kids young as, like, girls young as 13, 10, 12 sell drugs here. And mothers who are like, grandmothers who are like 60, 70 years old are selling drugs there too. In Govindwal Sahib, in front of the Bolli Sahib Gurdwara Sahib, jithe Maharaj ne kiha si ki Govindwal Sahib Sikhi da Tura, right? It's a kendra, a center of Sikhi. Ode prakarma vich assi nashe vechde lok phade. Right? And Oti Vihir Vechi Govindwal Sahib, there was people who were trying to come to Govindwal Sahib and sell drugs there. And Bhai Sahib wasn't only a threat to the Sarkar, or wasn't a threat to the politicians or the deep state. Bhai Sahib was a threat to the police and the police themselves are profiting from these drugs, and then obviously the drug lords who are smuggling these drugs up in Punjab. So we used to always think that we're not the police might not do an action on us, but just like how deep Sidhu Moosewala came up and got ambushed, anytime Bhai Amritpal Singh could get ambushed like that. So to tackle that issue, Bhai Amritpal Singh first opened the Anandpur Vapsi Kendra in Jalupur Kheda, their own village, and then after, when they saw how much a demand there was for this, there's a second location that was opened up in Chima Pind, which is in Barnala, and Bhai Basant Singh shifted. First he established it in the first village, and he didn't go in the Vihir, he didn't go to Ajnala, he didn't do anything. He was just solely focused on this. And Odi inni jada commitment si Basant Singh used to say like to us, he's like, "Meri kare maa vi mar jave, hai na, main pind nahi jana." And he was just helping these young men. He's only 25, 26 years old. He dedicated everything to just helping these people get off drugs. And then after, eventually, in February, he shifted to Barnala, Chima Pind to start the second one, second de-addiction center there. And that was starting up and was becoming successful. But that's eventually where he was picked up from and taken to Assam with the rest of the people.
Yeah, I think it's an important segue that we're going to go into now. And the last question that I had for you, and I know I said this before, but when we think about the phenomena of displacement, and we think about the dominant narratives about displacement, it's usually bahar jaan di craze. We hear that a lot, but we really haven't interrogated or understood what that actually means, because what that sentence actually means is the conditions are so fundamentally hostile for young people there, is that their options are so limited. And that's what that sentence actually means. Because when you look at it, you're essentially being politically disenfranchised, the criminalization of Varis Punjab Day, the entire organization. You're being economically exploited. There's repeated targeted attacks on the livelihoods of small farmers. Number 3, the social fabric of Punjab is unraveling through issues like the drug epidemic. So I think when we think about all these symptoms, and I think that's why Bhai Amritpal Singh was such a big threat, is because he was addressing these root cause issues. And, it's for his initiatives, it's similar to, like the Black Panthers in Oakland. They had the People's Programs, right, where they were addressing the material conditions of people in their communities. And similarly, Bhai Amritpal Singh, leading these initiatives, were addressing the actual core issues of the people of Punjab, and then also bringing the language of liberation and Khalistan in the forefront too. And that was a big part of it too. And I think, what did he get after doing all of that? He's in Assam, in a remote prison in near China, in the China border. So, the question I want to ask is, I know folks who have been arrested, and, what actually happened on March 18th. And I think, obviously, we know that hundreds of people were arrested. Internet was shut down for over 30 million people. We're talking about, arrests of people who drove cars for Amritpal, who, washed the car, who took a selfie. There was an incredible amount of effort to shut down the entire network of Bhai Amritpal Singh. So, please talk about that. Your firsthand experiences with folks who are part of the Vihir. How are they right now? And even for the Sangat to know that this state violence is continuing, right? And Definitely. This is, they have criminalized every aspect of Bhai Amritpal Singh's campaign and his Sangash, right? Yeah. And that's very clear, the way they've proceeded. So, and if you could talk about that a little bit, and just the folks that you've been in touch with, what are they saying? Are they safe? How many people are still in prison? And what's going on exactly there?
So, it's very, very, very clear that if they wanted to arrest Bhai Amritpal Singh, they could have come to his house and arrested him at any time. Yeah. In the mornings, in the evenings, typically until 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, Bhai Amritpal Singh, unless he had a samagam, he was at his house. In the evenings, we would show up around 6, 7 o'clock again, and we'd be back home, and Sare Singh Prasada Pani Chakde Sige, and we just have just go to bed pretty much, right? And they had Bhai Sahib's daily schedule. Every morning, the CID officers, the police officers would call one of Bhai Sahib Singhs and be like, Bhai Sahib, what's Bhai Sahib's schedule today? Where is he going today? And what they told us was, hey, we're doing this for your protection. We want to provide security for you, so there's no violence, or no one tries to hurt you or harm you or assassinate you or like anything like that. And everything was very transparent. Every morning at 7 a.m., Bhai Sahib's schedule was pretty much given to them and saying कि आज ਅਸੀਂ ਜਲੰਧਰ ਜਾਣਾ ਜੇ ਜਲੰਧਰ ਜਾਣਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਤੇ ਜਲੰਧਰ ਤੇ ਐਸਐਸਪੀ ਨੂੰ ਫੋਨ ਆ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਜੇ ਬਰਨਾਲੇ ਜਾਣਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਤੇ ਬਰਨਾਲੇ ਦੇ ਐਸਐਸਪੀ ਨੂੰ ਫੋਨ ਚਲਾ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਅੱਜ ਬਰਨਾਲੇ ਜਾਣਾ so everything was transparent. But the way on March 18th, the police and the paramilitary were brought into Punjab, and the center state with Amit Shah and Bhagwant Mann, they went ahead and had this Operation Amritpal. It wasn't to neutralize Amritpal Singh or stop the activities that he was doing on the ground there. It was the overall cause of that was, hey, we're going to send in roughly 80,000 police officers and paramilitary. For 5 days, we're going to shut down internet to 27 million people across Punjab. And every single person in Punjab is going to be affected by this. And we're going to make a point that anyone who speaks up and talks about Punjab's issues, Punjab's rights, they'll be suppressed and there'll be a police action against them. And ek tarah da dashat te bada dar da mahol, to put in like a mahol of fear inside of people, to cause a fear psychosis in these people's minds. Hey, don't have anything to do with Amritpal Singh, and if you do anything with him, he's a terrorist, and look at the way that the police is handling him. Same thing's going to happen to us. So what that did is, for people like me and you who might have not been there in the 80s and the early 90s when all this stuff was happening in Punjab, what we read in textbooks or watched in videos, the history was repeating itself again. Then you have people who were there, like our parents' generation, their wounds are reopening again. What happened on March 18th was Bhai Amritpal Singh is traveling to Sidhu Moosewala's village, where his barsi was supposed to be held on March 19th, I believe, or March 18th. It was his barsi, and he was traveling there, and he was going to meet with the family, attend the barsi program, and then go to Muktsar Sahib to start the Vihir on the 19th. That was his plans. Bhai Sahib, when they reached the Jalandhar area, they were surrounded by police. There's nakke, road stops that were put up, and roughly 100 police cars started chasing Bhai Sahib's motorcade. Jinne bhi naal 5-6 gaddiyan sigiyan Bhai Sahib de naal. And Bhai Sahib realized that something is happening here. And when they were at the Nakka, Bhai Sahib quickly got out of the car and out of their main car and shifted into another vehicle and made his way out of there with Papa Preet Singh and couple of other Singhs. And their motive was, let's go back to Muktsar Sahib and we'll start the Vihir there. Once the Vihir starts, then the police can't do anything because they need sangat ho chuki. But once they started realizing that internet bhi band ho gaya, inna jyada police force, the military aa gayi, they realized there's a bigger action taking place. So Bhai Sahib gets, in a very difficult way, bada okha paida siga, inna bade okhe din katte, but they got out of there and they were able to move to the side and get out of the state for a little bit, right? But ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਿੰਘ ਨਾਲ ਸੀਗੇ Bhai Sahib ਦੇ ਗੱਡੀਆਂ ਵਿੱਚ, ਭਾਵੇਂ ਉਹ Bhai Sahib ਦੀ ਸਿਕਿਉਰਿਟੀ ਕਰਦੇ ਸੀਗੇ, ਭਾਵੇਂ ਉਹ ਕੋਈ ਬਰਛਾ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਖੜਦਾ ਸੀਗਾ in front of Maharashtra to do their paredari, ਭਾਵੇਂ ਕੋਈ Bhai Sahib ਦੀ ਗੱਡੀ 'ਚ ਵੈਕਿਊਮ ਹੀ ਕਰਦਾ ਸੀ ਜਾਂ ਗੱਡੀ ਚਲਾਉਂਦਾ ਸੀਗਾ, ਜਾਂ Bhai Sahib ਦੇ ਰਿਸ਼ਤੇਦਾਰਾਂ ਦੇ ਚਾਚਾ ਜੀ ਸੀਗੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ Bhai Sahib ਨਾਲ ਵਿਚਰਦੇ ਸੀਗੇ. Anyone who was associated with Bhai Sahib was chased down, was pretty much hunted down, arrested, tortured, and brought back to Baba Bakala jail, ja Ajnal di jail, ja Amritsar di jail. And when majority of Bhai Sahib's core team sigi, oda haje vi jail vich a. They're in prison, and I've heard stories of them getting severely tortured. Especially in the first couple of days, ke unne kapde laha ke alf nanga karke unna nu current laya gaya, and just to get ke Amritpal Singh kithe a, where is he, and we kisi da phone frol ke te och vekh lena what WhatsApp groups people are on the WhatsApp, who's in the WhatsApp groups, who's a part of their team or security. ਤੇ ਜਿੰਨੇ ਵੀ ਬੰਦੇ ਆ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਪੁੱਛਗਿੱਛ ਕਰਕੇ and sending police to each person's house. Even if someone like Bhai Harmil Singh Jodhe, or Jodhe ਪਿੰਡ ਦੇ ਆ, he wasn't with Bhai Sahib that day, but police was looking for him. Like, where is he? ਤੇ ਜਿੰਨੇ ਵੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਆਲੇ ਦੁਆਲੇ ਨੌਜਵਾਨ ਸੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਪਿੰਡ ਦੇ, ਉਹਨੂੰ ਸਾਰੇ ਨੂੰ ਚੱਕ ਕੇ ਅੰਦਰ ਕਰ ਦਿੱਤਾ. If someone even took a selfie with Bhai Sahib, like you mentioned earlier, or if someone was looking after, in the Vihir, they're looking after some trailers and tractors that were in the procession, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਅੰਦਰ ਚੱਕ ਕੇ ਤੇ ਬੜਾ torture ਕੀਤਾ. If someone was a photographer, they're tracked down to the point that they're picked out of a train station. 10-12 ਘੰਟੇ ਉਹਦੀ interrogation ਕੀਤੀ ਗਈ. Everyone's phones were totally confiscated, and they went through all their technology. Bhai Sahib ਦੇ ਘਰ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਜਿੰਨਾ ਵੀ Bhai Sahib ਦੇ ਘਰੇ ਕੋਈ electronic ਸਮਾਨ ਸੀਗਾ, ਕੋਈ radio ਸੀਗਾ, ਕੋਈ iPad ਸੀਗਾ, ਕੁਛ ਵੀ ਸੀਗਾ, they picked up all that, took it all, and they just started sending police to everyone's house and rounding up anyone who was in Bhai Sahib's circles. And this type of mahol, for people like us sitting in the West, where we don't see this often, or we don't experience this, it might be hard to understand. But the people of Punjab are very well versed in this, and they know what the Punjab Sarkar ne pehla ki kita, kidan nojwanon nu chak ke made fake accounters and sent make fake accounters and tinyara vich unna de sarir sette. And that's what we were afraid of was going to happen with these things. That's what we were afraid of was going to happen with Bhai Amritpal Singh. For a couple of days, no one even knew if Bhai Sahib was arrested or not arrested. There was conflicting reports coming out by the police and by the media that Bhai Sahib di arrest hogi, Amritpal Singh di arrest nahi hui. Then they started putting out the CCTV camera footage. So, and then now that Bhai Sahib's arrested, and I've been able to get in touch with a couple of more people who are there, and some of the people who have been released, who just took a selfie but were put in prison for 30 days because you're associated with Bhai Amritpal Singh. Here's a photo of you. They tell me that koi kehanda main 1.5 lakh rupiya de ke shutta, koi kehanda kisi ne 3 lakh ditta. So they're taking bribes from these innocent people, saying give us this much money, even to the point that they'll arrest them and hold them for weeks without even bringing them in front of a judge or filing a formal case upon them, just taking them, so nothing's in paper, nothing's in writing, and tracking people down and then interrogating them. And even those people who got interrogated and now they're released, they can't go back to their families or their homes because they're afraid कि सानू पुलिस दोबारा आके चक लूगी. वो लाख 1.5 लाख दे के छुट्टे आ, पर हुण डर उन्हां नूं कि जे घरे वापस चले गए अपने बच्चों कोल, अपने परिवारां कोल, then the police is going to come back. Even the people who did kirtan or any seva in the Vihir, kirtan नहीं करते सीगे, ਉਹ ਵੀ ਅੱਜ ਆਪਣੇ ਘਰੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਪਰਿਵਾਰਾਂ ਕੋਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਬੈਠੇ, ਉਹ ਵੀ ਕਿਤੇ ਗੁਪਤ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਤੇ ਲੁਕ ਕੇ ਬੈਠੇ ਆ. So it's not that okay, Amritpal Singh is arrested and he was the only one who's affected by this, right? Bhai Sahib Singhani is affected by this. Bhai Sahib Singhani was not allowed to go back to her family in England. The police came to her house and interrogated her on multiple occasions, playing good cop, bad cop, and obviously Bhai Sahib's own family, their brother and everyone who was connected to them, their chacha sare and the and the de-addiction center that Bhai Sahib had started there in the Pind, the police came there. The first day the police came there, 1000 banda police da aaya to shut it down, and just to sare utte frola frali karan waste utte us labya nahi unna nu. And then they started coming. Then agle din 300-400 ho raha 300-400 aaya te Bhai Sahib de pita ji unna sare jehde singh sige unna nu beinti majboor ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ. Bhai Sahib ਦੇ ਪਿਤਾ ਤੋਂ ਮਜਬੂਰ ਕਰਾਇਆ ਗਿਆ ਕਿ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਹਿ ਦਿਓ ਕਿ ਇੱਥੋਂ ਚਲੇ ਜਾਣ, ਨਹੀਂ ਤਾਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਤੇ ਕੇਸ ਪਾਏ ਜਾਣਗੇ. So those type of information are slowly coming out now, what's happening on the ground there. And those people who came to Bhai Sahib seeking help with their drug addiction, a lot of them have no place to go now. And they're going to get back into that cycle. And now then you hear on the media, and they're going there, and the Godi media is putting out reports कि नशे नहीं छुड़ा रहा सीगा, ये किसी की मदद नहीं कर रहा सीगा, it was just all fake, it was this, right? And like when I witnessed this, I wanted to document it all. So I have probably at least 30-40 first-hand accounts of people who came there and ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਉੱਥੇ ਬਦਲੀ. And I'm slowly trying to work on a project where I can put this out for the Sangat to realize what the ground reality actually was.
Yeah, because when you're saying that, I think about someone like Bhai Gurkeerat Singh KothaGuru, right? And when we talk about cycles of violence, right, where it's cyclical, and his father, Bhai Gurkeerat Singh KothaGuru, was picked up on March 15th, 1991.
93.
disappeared. He left. The Punjab police picked him up, and his family never received his body back, right? And then exactly 35 years later, his son is now picked up, and for no reason at all. There's no violent activity. You're essentially involved in the Varas Punjab Day as a social worker, and he was essentially picked up. And think about the families, how much they have to go through, and seeing these repeated attacks on their livelihoods, on their mental health, on their actual health, right? And what that means to the families.
And the thing is, one thing we have to it was like exactly 30 years from the time that Bhai Gurkeerat Singh KothaGuru's father got picked up, March 15th, and then March 25th, 30 years, right? So the history is repeating itself. But the one thing that I remember Bhai Amritpal Singh saying is, I asked him, ke Punjab de lok kinne ku dukhi hai? Kinne ku dukhi hai? He's like, Punjab de loki dukhi hai, but depressed nahi. There's a difference.
Yeah.
Even though ਇੰਨੇ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਵਾਇਲੈਂਸ ਸਾਡੇ ਲੋਕਾਂ 'ਤੇ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ, ਈਵਨ ਦੋ ਇੰਨਾ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਹੁਣ ਤਸ਼ੱਦਦ ਅਤੇ ਇੱਕ ਖੌਫ ਦਾ ਮਾਹੌਲ ਅਤੇ ਦਹਿਸ਼ਤ ਦਾ ਮਾਹੌਲ ਪੰਜਾਬ 'ਚ ਬਣਾਇਆ ਗਿਆ, ਲੋਕ ਅੱਜ ਭਾਈ ਅੰਮ੍ਰਿਤਪਾਲ ਸਿੰਘ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਨ ਨੂੰ ਪੰਜਾਬ 'ਚ ਕੋਈ ਨਾ ਕੋਈ ਹੱਦ ਤੱਕ ਡਰ ਰਹੇ ਆ, publicly ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ. If someone puts up a WhatsApp post about Bhai Amritpal Singh, a status, they're rounded up and picked up and tortured, and the police makes a report where that person has to ask maafi in front of everyone and say, ਮੈਂ ਗਲਤ ਰਸਤੇ ਪੈ ਗਿਆ ਸੀ, ਹੁਣ ਮੈਂ ਸਹੀ ਰਸਤੇ ਪੈ ਹਾਂ, right? So ਇੱਥੋਂ ਤੱਕ ਗੱਲ ਪਹੁੰਚੀ ਆ. ਪਰ ਮੈਂ ਇਹ ਗੱਲ ਕਹੂੰਗਾ ਕਿ ਜੋ ਕੁਛ ਪੰਜਾਬ 'ਚ ਹੋਇਆ ਹੈ ਨਾ, ਇਹਦੇ repercussions ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਵੱਡੇ ਹੋਣਗੇ. You can suppress the voices of people of Punjab for a short period of time. Even after 1984, the whole year of 1985, there's no activity. Everything stands still. But start of 1986, right there we see then the progression starts building and it starts getting more and more and more. Just like that, like Bhai Amritpal Singh said in his last speech, God, this is not the end, this is just the start.
Calm before the storm.
Yeah, it's calm before the storm. And Bhai Sahib used to always say one thing. He's like, it's sarkaran ne tah karna ke naujawanan nu kede raste torna. If people are getting picked up and innocent people are being harassed and then they have to give bribes or they have to be in hiding away from their families, those people are gonna react. There's going to be a reaction of everything that the Punjab state or the Sarkar is doing upon them, and they've lost hope in Bhagwant Mann. Bhagwant Mann di Sarkar vich jitte Sidhu Moosewala da assassination hunda, Deep Sidhu di sari gal hundi a, na Amritpal Singh na kinna kuch hunda. People in Punjab are furious ke they see the injustice happening to them directly.
Yeah, no, thank you for that, and for the Sangat, for their knowledge as well. It seems like we're outraged for a couple of weeks, and then we stop doing what we're doing, just go on with our lives. But it's important to realize that there are hundreds of families that are still affected. They're still in jail, and there's not only a single way to contribute to Bhai Amritpal Singh's movement. You can contribute through art, through poetry, through social media. Maybe it's you get more involved in your Gurmat school. Maybe you get more involved in your Gurdwara. Maybe you learn Punjabi. You make an effort to learn Punjabi. Maybe you want to take a trip to Punjab. So I think there's so many ways that we can continue Bhai Amritpal Singh's message and his vision. So, and that's our appeal. I think that's Varas Punjab's appeal as well, is to make sure. Yeah.
I'll share the last message. My last in-person meeting with Bhai Amritpal Singh was on January 15th, and he, right before I was going to leave, he just gave me a saropa and he gave me a hug, and he said, continue to do Qawm di Seva.
Yeah.
And I think that's a message for every single youngster out there. Okay? Whichever way you can. I had a camera and I was passionate about photography and I wanted to document history, and that was a seva that I was able to do, right? Wherever you are in your life, in your Sikhi journey, whatever your strengths are, whatever field you're in, see how you can do seva of the Panth, and just continue contributing in that way, and that goes a long way.
Yeah, so thank you all for joining in. Thank you, Bhai Gurkeerat Singh, for making the trip over to California to talk to the Sangat and students here. And thank you all for watching. And we're going to say Fateh now. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa.
Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.